All right, let's dive into one of the most iconic street foods out there, tacos in Mexico City. We're not just talking about your average taco, though, are we? We want to get to the heart of what makes them so special.
You hit the nail on the head. Mexico City tacos, they're a true reflection of the city itself. History, culture, flavor, all wrapped up in one delicious package.
I've always thought of tacos as, well, tacos. But after reading through the research you sent, it's clear there's so much more than that in Mexico City.
Exactly. Each taco tells a story that goes back centuries, blending those indigenous culinary traditions with Spanish influence. For example, did you know the al pastor taco, with its marinated pork and pineapple, actually has roots in Lebanese immigration?
Whoa, really? I never knew that. I always thought of al pastor as, a classic Mexican taco, but that connection to Lebanese immigrants, that adds a whole new dimension to it. So we've got al pastor. What other classic tacos should we be thinking about?
Oh, so many. Carnitas, for sure. It's tender, melt-in-your-mouth pork, slow cooked for hours in lard until it's practically falling apart.
Okay, stop. You're making me hungry. That slow-cooked richness. Are we talking traditional methods here, still using lard in Mexico City?
Absolutely. It's part of what makes carnitas so special. It's that time-honored technique passed down through generations.
It makes sense. You can't rush perfection. Right. Okay, so we've got al pastor, carnitas. What else? What else is calling our name from those Mexico City streets?
If you want a taste of history, you have to try barbacoa. Tender, slow-cooked lamb cooked in underground pits for hours. It's truly a taste of ancient Mexican culinary heritage. And in Mexico City, it often involves wrapping that lamb in maguey leaves, the leaves from the agave plant.
Wait, so the same plant that gives us tequila? That's amazing. Okay, I've had barbacoa before, but never thought about that connection. So we've got these incredible base tacos, but what about the toppings? I'm especially interested in the salsas.
Ah, the salsas. Essential part of the experience. Forget about just a dollop of something spicy. We're talking about a whole spectrum of flavors and textures. Everything from the bright herbaceous green tomatillo salsa, which, relatively mild, to that fiery habanero salsa that'll definitely clear your sinuses.
Oh, I can imagine.
But it's not just about heat. There's a real art to it, balancing those flavors. The acidity of lime, the sharpness of onion, the fresh cilantro, even pickled vegetables add layers of complexity to each bite.
What the articles you sent really captured the feeling of being there on the streets. The sizzling grills, the lively chatter, the taqueros working their magic. It really brought the whole scene to life.
Exactly. That's what elevates the experience. It's more than just food. Imagine standing at a taqueria, aroma of grilling meat filling the air, the rhythmic chopping of the taqueros. You're immersed in the energy of the city. It's truly a cultural immersion.
I love that. You're not just eating, you're experiencing the city itself. And speaking of experiencing it fully, one of the sources gave some great advice. Be adventurous, try different types, and always, always say yes to the salsa.
Great advice. It's all about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. You might discover a new favorite taco or a salsa that totally blows your mind. It's about being open to the unexpected.
This is making me seriously hungry. Even if we can't just hop on a plane right now, we can at least explore what makes these tacos so special.
Absolutely. And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover about the history, the techniques, the stories behind these iconic tacos. We'll dive into all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, let's get back to those Mexico City tacos. All this talk about al pastor, carnitas, and barbacoa is making my stomach rumble. So let's say we're on the streets of Mexico City right now. Where are we heading? What are the absolute must-try tacos we can't miss?
Well, you already mentioned al pastor, and I have to agree it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
That combination of savory and sweet, the thinly sliced marinated pork, slow cooked on a vertical spit. It gets all that smoky flavor from the fire. And then there's the touch of sweetness from the pineapple, and of course, that char from the spit.
You're killing me. I can almost smell it. You mentioned the marinade earlier. What's in it? What gives it that distinctive al pastor flavor?
The marinade, that's where the magic is. Usually a blend of Childs spices like cumin and oregano. Oh, and accio paste. That's what gives al pastor its reddish-orange color.
Alcure paste.
It comes from the seeds of a fruit that grows in the tropics. Gives it kind of an earthy depth.
See, this is what I love about this deep dive. It's not just about, what to order. It's about understanding the history and the techniques that go into making these tacos so special. Okay, so al pastor is definitely on our list. What else should we be looking out for?
If you're feeling adventurous, tacos de suadero are a local favorite.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What is suadero?
Suadero, it's a cut of beef from the brisket area. It's known for being really flavorful and tender. They cook it on a flat-top grill, a comal, which gives it a crispy exterior but keeps the inside juicy.
That sounds amazing. I love that crispy texture you get from a comal. What about something a little more traditional? We were talking about barbacoa before. What makes Mexico City's barbacoa so special?
Well, in Mexico City, barbacoa is often made with lamb wrapped in those maguey leaves, and they cook it in an underground pit, like we mentioned. It's a slow cooking process, can take 12 hours, sometimes even longer. This creates incredibly tender and flavorful meat infused with those earthy aromas from the maguey leaves.
Oh man, that sounds incredible. So we've got our taco short list, but how do we actually find the best tacos? Any insider tips for navigating all those taquerias?
One thing to remember, look for places with long lines. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but trust me on this one. Locals know best.
Yeah, that makes sense, like a built-in recommendation system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A long line usually means the tacos are worth the wait. Another thing, don't be afraid to try something new. That's part of the fun of street food. Step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Be curious. Let your taste buds be your guide.
And embrace the salsa. We talked about the different varieties earlier, but there are so many to try.
Exactly. You got to experiment with the different salsas to find what you like. Some taquerias even have their own signature salsas, so don't hesitate to ask for recommendations. It's all about making it your own, personalizing your taco experience.
You're making me want to book a flight right now. But even if we can't be in Mexico City, maybe we can bring a bit of that taco magic into our own kitchen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the sources you sent over even included a recipe for homemade corn tortillas. And let me tell you, fresh tortillas make a huge difference.
I've always wanted to try making tortillas from scratch, but been a little intimidated.
It's not as hard as you think. And once you've got those fresh tortillas, you can experiment with different fillings and toppings and salsas. Create your own taco masterpieces.
So even if we're not in Mexico City, we can still have our own little taco adventure. I like it.
Exactly. It's about, the spirit of exploration, the joy of food. And remember, tacos are super versatile. Get creative.
Something else that stood out to me in the research, venturing beyond the typical tourist areas. Why is that so important?
You'll find great tacos everywhere in Mexico City. But if you want a more authentic experience, get into different neighborhoods. You'll find these little hidden gems, family-run taquerias that have been perfecting their recipes for generations. It's incredible.
It's about getting off the beaten path, really connecting with the local culture.
Exactly. Talk to locals, ask for recommendations, and, just be open to trying new things.
This deep dive has been such a sensory experience, really. We've gone through the history, the culture, the flavors, even practical tips for navigating the taco scene.
It's been a journey for sure, a journey through taste and tradition. But before we move on, there's one more thing I wanted to touch upon.
I'm all ears.
It's about the human element, The taqueros, the vendors, the families who have been perfecting these recipes over generations. They are truly the heart and soul of the Mexico City street food scene.
You're so right. It's not just about the food, it's about the people behind it, their stories, their passion, their connection to the city.
Exactly. They put their heart and soul into every taco. They're artists,
It really changes how you view the whole experience. Knowing each taco is a result of all that, the tradition, the skill, the love for the craft.
And that's what makes tacos in Mexico City so special. They're really a testament to the city's vibrant culture, the power of these culinary traditions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This deep dive has been incredible. I feel like I've learned so much, and my appreciation for tacos has just skyrocketed.
It's been my pleasure. But before we wrap up completely, I want to leave you with one last thought to consider as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
We've covered so much, the history, the flavors, those incredible street food scenes, even the people behind those amazing tacos. But before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Mexico City tacos, what's the main takeaway? What can our listeners learn from all this, even if they're, miles away from a taqueria?
It's interesting to think about how food can be a window into a culture. It's not just about, eating. It's about understanding the history, the traditions, even the values of a place, all through something as simple and delicious as a taco.
So even if we can't be in Mexico City, we can still kind of connect with its culture through these stories and flavors.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about Mexican culture. Think about your own personal food experiences. What are the dishes that really stand out to you? The ones that evoke strong memories or emotions?
Oh, wow. Now that you mention it, I have this really vivid memory of making pierogies with my grandmother when I was a kid.